Sign says beat Oregon behind me. That's exactly what Ohio State plans to do on Saturday. It's only Tuesday, so for now we're just in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center breaking down the Buckeyes before we go out to the West Coast. That's Tim May, the 41-year vet. That's Andy Baxter. I'm Spencer Holbrook. Tim, just heard from Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, Will Howard. A lot of respect for this Oregon program and a lot to learn from the Buckeyes here as they get ready to head west.
Yeah, I hope there's a lot of respect. They're undefeated. They're really good. They got a really good quarterback. They've got a Jordan Birch on the plays defensive end. He's built 6'6", 290 pounds. I didn't get to ask Will Howard a question today. I don't know why, but the bottom line is I wanted to ask him, you're a big guy. What's it like to look at a guy like that?
Yeah.
Coming at you, and I mean, even though defensive linemen are big guys by nature, a 6'6" guy, 290 who can run is interesting. They picked up other guys, of course, in the transfer portal that have made this defense even better compared to even last year and stuff. So the challenge is there. Is Ohio State's offense going to keep on keeping on?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge for the offensive line. They're going to face
Yes.
probably more pressure than they've faced so far. So far, they've held up in pass protection, but it feels almost inevitable that with an athletic front that you just talked about, Tim, sometimes there's going to be pressure that Will Howard's going to face. He talked about how, he's gotten better through his career, standing in, making the throws when he needs to. We've even seen that. He got hurt on the play or got the wind knocked out of him when he stood there in the pocket and made the throw to Carnell Tate. It was an incomplete pass, but he's not afraid to do that.
No.
I think that's the important thing. He's played in big games like this. I think the mantra today was that Will Howard came to Ohio State to play in games like this. Now he has a game like this. He's excited for it. They're excited for him, and we're going to get to see it unfold on Saturday.
I think one of the things that I take away from today is that not only does Ohio State respect Oregon, but I think there's a level of respect for the environment they're getting ready to go into. Autzen Stadium I think is only 60,000 seats. I was reading something online yesterday. It said 60,000 feels like 100,000 because everybody's right on top of you and it's a loud atmosphere. Chip Kelly talked about how special of a place Autzen Stadium is. Ryan Day talked about handling the pressure, which I think goes into handling the environment, handling everything like that. So, I have a lot of respect for Michigan State and Spartan Stadium. It's not Autzen. And so I think there is a little level of respect. And in fact, we were getting ready to start this video and they were testing the crowd noise on the speakers behind us out on the practice field. And Tim said, "Oh, is that really going to be playing during our video?" And I said, "No, I want that. People can hear what they're practicing toward, on Saturday." And Chip Kelly did talk about that a lot today.
I'm just giving you signals, hand signals.
Yeah, it's going to be, Donovan Jackson giving the silent count, everything, the whole 9 yards.
Will Howard doing this a lot on Saturday while he's trying to hear Chip Kelly call his play or give him instructions and stuff. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to experience. I've never been there. It's one of the few places, I'm 70 years old, doing this for a long time.
41 years.
Well, I've been a sports writer since I was 19, and I've heard so much about this stadium through the years. Now you get to experience it. Is it really going to live up to expectations? I would think so, because everybody who's ever been there is quite impressed with it. As Chip Kelly said, except maybe in 2020 when he was head coach at UCLA and they played there, and they basically used it piped-in noise because nobody else was allowed in the stands and stuff. But it was the same piped-in noise whether you went to Cal or UCLA or Utah, that year because of COVID and stuff. But it definitely gives them an advantage in some respects, just like Ohio Stadium did, on Saturday against Iowa. That was a pretty loud environment.
Yeah, the Buckeyes aren't strangers to it. I just think it's an interesting thing. Other thing that's interesting to me, I did ask about Tegra Shabola playing every snap almost, other than the garbage time snaps at right guard. Sounds like that battle might be reaching its conclusion. They really like what they're getting from Tegra Shabola there. I would be stunned if they're rotating guards in against this team especially. But Ryan Day also made a comment I thought was interesting. They really like the matchup with Tegra Shabola in there. Is this a matchup-based position? I don't think right guard is, but maybe it is. I don't know. I just think it's very interesting, his answer today about, they might be settling on Tegra there at right guard, Andy.
Well, facing the Iowa defensive interior, those big guys, Tim, you mentioned that in our video earlier this week, that definitely was a matchup that you would like, considering how big Tegra Shabola is. And I think he did a really good job against the Hawkeyes. But yeah, to your point, with the communication difficulties in a place like that, with the silent count you're probably going to have, maybe it makes more sense to just roll with one guy. But who knows? We'll see what happens. But it definitely sounds like they're leaning that way. And they're not trying to change their schedule for travel, as far as They're staying on East Coast time. I thought that was interesting. Ryan Day's really not concerned with the trip out west. He's not making a big deal about it. He said it's really only a couple hours longer than the flight to Nebraska. So that is just not something that was really talked about much
Not
today.
if you're connecting through Midway, but go ahead.
For them, with a chartered
Yes.
flight, right? So I think that's something to kind of point out, because it's natural to think, well, you're making the first trip to the West Coast, and one reporter pointed out today that teams are, I think, 1-8 so far making that trip out there. But again, he was quick to kind of dismiss that worry and said that we're really not going to change too much about what we're doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, Oregon came here in 2021, yeah, and actually this game started at 9 a.m. their time, because it started at noon, and they didn't have any trouble.
No.
I think college athletes in general are quite adaptable, but they do like that structured thing. Just like at Michigan State, I wrote a little story about that, about the fact that all they figure in is that was just a longer bus ride, from here to the hotel, meaning a 45-minute airplane ride, and then they get off, they immediately go to their hotel. It's a 4-hour bus ride, or 4.5-hour, 5-hour flight, depending on the winds, going west, and so that'll be interesting. But the coaches don't like to talk about that because you don't want to get it in players' heads.
And look,
you can over-psych yourself.
And look, if this was a 11 p.m. local, 8 p.m. kickoff out there,
Yeah.
Ohio State would rip up its schedule and start over because it would have to. You don't want guys playing until 2 a.m. local.
Like Miami had to the other
Like
night.
Miami had to, 2 a.m. Eastern time. But the fact that it's 4:30 Pacific time, 7:30, Ohio State just played a 7:30 game a couple weeks ago. I don't think there's much that you have to change in this schedule, and so I kind of like that they're doing that.
I give it up to them because they can have college football players. Ohio State can have a kickoff anywhere from noon to 3:30 to 4 to 7 to 7:30 and stuff, and that does make a difference. I mean, anytime you throw it makes a difference on the other end. After a 7:30 game is over, and then getting back on a plane and flying back 4 hours or spending the night, but still you've got that extra travel coming back that really kind of takes away from prep for the next week. Of course, Ohio State's off next week.
Yeah, Ohio State is off next week, but they're not off this week. If you'd like to experience everything in Autzen Stadium on Saturday and you're going out to Eugene but you don't have tickets yet, or you're trying to shed your tickets and get better, easier, cheaper tickets, go to the Game Time app and gametime.co. That is the place to go. Oh, by the way, Ohio State's back at home on October 26th for a pretty good one against Nebraska. I think that one's going to be a noon banger. If you want to go to that one, gametime.co, the Game Time app. The Game Time Picks feature lets you easily sort through tickets the way that you would like to. Also, Game Time, if you want to find a ticket on a competing ticketing app after you bought a ticket on Game Time, that ticket is cheaper. You send that into Game Time, they refund you 110% the difference. That's right, 110% difference. Game Time, the Game Time app, gametime.co, is the place to go for your last-minute ticket needs. Tim, if he's going to go see, a play at some point or a musical, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Who's to say? He's been on the Game Time app trying to find those tickets. Andy, he's going to see Cats again. Maybe he'll go see, that using the Game Time app, the Game Time app, and gametime.co. Use the promo code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase in the Game Time app. That's ON3 ON3 for $20 off your first purchase in the Game Time app. We don't need tickets to the game, but we will be out in Eugene in Autzen Stadium for this one. Andy, what else did you learn today from Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, and Will Howard as we begin to wrap things up here?
Well, it's a different place than it was when Chip Kelly was the head coach there. I think that was something that was asked repeatedly, about the ties between Chip Kelly obviously being there, ushering in a new era of football there at the time, very innovative with that offense.
Yes.
But he was quick to point out, look, guys, things are really different now compared to then. Recruiting is different. That team obviously is very different. Dan Lanning has a different structure. He's a defensive head coach, came up from Georgia, has his own way of doing things. Obviously, they're explosive offensively still, but in a different way. So I think it was just a reminder of, that's a cool storyline, but it's probably not something to make everything about this week. It's more of just, this is a top 3 showdown. The last 2 years, it's been a top 3 showdown against Michigan. It's not going to be that this year. Michigan already has 2 losses. This year, the top 3 showdown is happening in Eugene. It was preseason 2 and 3. Now it's back to 2 and 3 after some movement early in the season. And I think this has got the feel of that kind of game. But it's not the end of November. It's happening mid-season. I think we're going to learn so much about these teams. And that was kind of the sense I was getting in this press conference, is that it's not like this is a reunion in Eugene for Chip Kelly. It's not that this is a kind of a litmus test. Like, there's a lot on the line for a race here for the Big Ten and seeding potential for the college football playoff.
And he's been back a few times with UCLA when he was head coach of UCLA. It's not like his first time back. You know?
If this was his first time back, we would make a bigger deal of it.
Oh,
for
absolutely.
Sure.
But the other thing is what he did was, I mean, Rich Brooks and then Mike Bellotti and then Chip Kelly in that succession, they made Oregon football relevant big time, and it kept increasing under Chip Kelly. The thing that's, and Chip Kelly, he kind of poo-pooed, a little bit, didn't really get into detail about when he was there. From a recruiting standpoint, though, they really started recruiting like Texas and places like that hard, which kind of changed the atmosphere from a football roster standpoint. Now Dan Lanning, has first Mario Cristobal and then Dan Lanning. They've upped the ante from the standpoint they have been trying to build a team like Ohio State, like Alabama, like Georgia, like we talked about yesterday, not a Pac-12 team. And there's a big difference, and you could see the difference physically of their offensive linemen and defensive linemen. That's where it usually is the big tell and stuff. So Chip Kelly kind of got that ball rolling, and but you do know deep in his heart, he's going back there. He wants to look good, not bad at the homecoming.
Yeah, well, we all want to look good at homecoming.
Yeah.
So
I don't like homecomings, but that's just me.
Well, it's been a long time since you went to one, right?
No, I haven't gone to them, but my 50-year high school was a couple of years ago. I didn't make it because it was in the middle of football season.
It's because he's dead.
That was my excuse.
It's because he's dedicated to the craft, folks. Dedicated to Ohio State football and covering it for LettermenRow.com. That's Tim May, the 41-year vet. That's what he does. He's been doing it for 41 years and beyond. Just been covering this program for 41 years. That's Andy Backstrom. He's been here a while. And me, Spencer Holbrook. We're over at LettermenRow.com. Come join us. It's 50% off right now for an annual membership. That is a lot of money you can save in times where maybe you don't think the economy's too good. Well,
so this is the number 2 team in the country, man.
Yeah, 50% off to read about the number 2 team in the country going out west to face the number 3 team in the country. Right now, as I'm speaking, Justin Hopkins from Scoop Duck, our On Three's Oregon site, is answering questions from Ohio State members in the Lettermen Lounge message board. It's a huge opportunity to learn about the Ducks. We're going to have coverage all week as we head out to Eugene for Ohio State, number 2 Ohio State at number 3 Oregon. Tim May, the 41-year vet, Andy Backstrom, Spencer Holbrook. Go to LettermenRow.com right now. 50% off using the promo code Buckeyes. That's right. Just put Buckeyes in there. You get 50% off all of our coverage at LettermenRow.com. We'll see you guys over there. We'll see you back in the Woody on Wednesday night, and then we'll see you in Eugene on Saturday for number 2 Ohio State at number 3 Oregon.